So as we've said, the whole motive behind the capitalist economy is to make profit, is to maximize what we call the rate of profit. That's the capitalist goal. And this leads to this third type of alienation that we want to talk about, what we might call the exploitation of the worker. And it all rests on the idea of maximization of profit by minimizing costs. Now there are costs you can minimize, and there are costs you can't minimize. And we can then divide, as a result, the capital that goes into it. See, the whole process by which the capitalist makes money is by investing money. We saw this when we talked about Aristotle, is that a profit-based economy always has this idea of money buying commodities, which then are sold for more money. The ultimate goal is always money, and Aristotle believed that was unnatural because it really should be commodities exchanged for money, and money used to buy another commodity which we need, and so then money is minimized and is only made, we only make as much as we need to buy what we need. But here the whole idea is we want to produce more money. And we saw how in Adam Smith's measurement of the success of capitalism, an economy that's always growing is the only good economy. And the only way an economy grows is by the growth of the total amount of money in circulation, the total amount of value in circulation. And we saw money as the measurement of that. So, how does this happen? What is the means by which the capitalist does this? Well, they invest in two types of capital, as we said. The capital that you need to produce the goods, which Marx calls constant capital, and the capital you need that actually increases the value of what you use. He calls this variable capital simply because this is the capital that can actually grow in value, whereas the constant capital is what you put in, is what you get out of it. So let's give me an example. If I'm going to make, for example, shoes, then what do I need? I need leather, I need tools to make that, and I need property to make it on. I need all of the non-human materials and the tools. But whatever I invest in that is exactly, as long as there's no depreciation in the value, is what I get out of it. In order for me to increase the value and gain a profit from what I bought, I need a laborer, don't I, to then take and labor on these materials and transform them into a commodity with more value. And the only thing that can do that is human labor, the cobbler that I hire, and thus the wages or the variable capital. Now, why does this add value to the original capital that I put in? Well, it's pretty obvious. Remember what value is for Marx. Value is labor. It's quantity of labor. And so whatever adds labor to a stock, to a bunch of material, and transforms it through added labor into something with more value, right? So therefore the addition of labor to the capital, to the constant capital, is what actually then creates something with added value, the final commodity. Thus, it's the laborer that is the total source of the surplus value that the final product has. So let's call that SV. We call the rate of profit RP. So, the way I'm going to make money is by that added value to the product that I sell it for. What I want is a surplus over all the capital I invested, don't I? But I invested into two types of capital, into my constant capital and my variable capital. I can't spend less on the constant capital. That's the going price. This is what it is. So what do I got to do? I'm going to have to get labor for free. In other words, I'm going to have to pay wages in such a way that what the laborer adds to the product is not the total amount I paid him. Because let's think of a fair price. I've used this as an example. Let's say I'm selling a TV. Let's say the final product of the TV is $1,000. Now we know that the rate of profit is going to be what? Is the surplus over the total amount I put in. So Thus, it's going to be what the total amount I put in is going to be the total amount of capital I put in, which is the total amount I paid for the materials and the production tools and everything to make the TV, and also the total number of wages, the variable capital that I paid. So, thus, if the TV's $1,000, but for each TV I needed about $500 for constant capital, and the total amount of wages I paid was $250, then, since I can sell the TV for $1,000, then the total surplus value that went into it is $250. I gain $250 for each TV set. Now, thus what I have here is the surplus 250 over 750, which means that I make a total rate of profit of 33%. Not bad. But where did I get that 33%? Well, if I really figure the total amount of surplus value, I only consider one variable. I consider the labor that was put into it, because nothing else adds value. So really, the total amount of value that's added to the product is going to be the surplus value over the variable constant capital, because that's the only place where it came from. And that's going to thus be 100%. So, if I'm fair and I'm paying for the worth of the labor that is put into the product, then I should be paying the laborer the total amount for their labor. They have put in $250, added $250, thus added $250 of labor, and thus the total amount that they should be paid is $500 for each TV set. But then I won't make a profit, will I? There'll be no surplus for the capitalist. So what do I have to do? I have to force the worker into the situation where they're going to be willing to be paid less than the total amount of labor that they put in. In other words, the wages for their labor has to be less than the labor that they put in. I have to give them less than the total value of their labor. I have to exploit them, don't I? And I can do this because I own all the means of production. The worker cannot make a TV without me, and the worker won't make money without me. And so if the worker wants a wage, the worker's going to have to be willing to settle for the conditions, the benefits that I'm willing to give them. And since all the advantage is on my side, the capitalist, then it turns out that I can always pay them less than the total amount of value that they add to the product, and therefore I can exploit them. This is the very essence of capitalist economy, you might say. Yes, workers can't survive without capitalists, but the whole capitalist economy has set up the situation so that the worker is always in the position of having to accept the conditions of the capitalist, because the capitalist is seen as the power behind labor, the only being that can provide a laborer with wages for subsistence. And therefore, the capitalist will always have a surplus. Now you might say, yes, but what about the fact that sometimes the goods go down, right? In other words, prices for capital, constant capital, go down. Can't they make money that way? No, because that sets the whole market price over again. Things then go down, right? The price of the total TV set goes down precisely because the total amount that went into it goes down. And so thus the capitalist has to accept a lower price for their TV. Where are they going to take out? They can't take out from the capital, the constant capital, since that's what they have to pay to even make the stuff. And therefore, if they're going to continue to make the same amount of profit or maximize profit, they're going to have to lower wages. So we see these three processes by which the worker must be exploited, must be alienated from their work. First, they are commodified, and therefore their labor is made into this homogeneous entity that is fetishized in money, and they are made, therefore, something alienated from the very thing that makes them who they are. Second, they are made into slaves where they have no say in what is produced or how it is produced, and therefore they can never take pride in their work, nor actually feel fulfilled or meaningful through their work. And then finally, they're treated unjustly. They must always settle for less than the amount of the total value of their work. And thus capitalism sets up an untenable situation, as we're going to see when we look at the Communist Manifesto, a situation that actually, through its very success, capitalism sows the seeds for its very downfall. And we'll talk more about that in our next section of communism.